What does a river in Europe have in common with a soap and an orangutan? Nothing at first, but if we dig just a little deeper, we would find something deeply disturbing. But we'll come to that later. Design used to be an art form. Now it's just a profession, a bastardized version of its former self. What was once a process of creation has been reduced to just being a process. Designers such as Brunel existed at the height of the Industrial Revolution to design world changing innovations. They did not start with technology, however, they understood that human need was the place to start. Their work did not result in the most beautiful products, they existed because they had a purpose, and each of their designs had a profound effect on the world in their time. So, what changed? Consumerism happened. Products were being manufactured at an ever increasing rate, and they needed to be sold. And slowly, design became a marketing tool. No one ever bothered to look at the effects of the products being introduced into the system. It was a mad dash to create the next most wanted product. Human desires weren't enough, and more had to be created. And thus, designed obsolescence was born. Design went from being this to this. Coming back to the rivers in Europe, what's the relationship? Rivers in Europe have been reeling under the pressures of cities for years. With pollution levels rising, the next big product was introduced biodegradable soap. Manufacturers marketed it and consumers embraced it. The soap, however, required palm oil to manufacture, and tropical rainforests across Indonesia are being cut to make way for palm oil plantations. The orangutan is slowly losing its habitat. How does this relate to systems thinking? To answer that question, we first must understand what systems thinking really is. The water cycle is an extremely simple example of a system. It's not an isolated system, however. Whole ecosystems depend on it. Now, if we decide to change any one aspect of the water cycle, it would have far reaching consequences on multiple ecosystems, which in turn may affect other ecosystems. It's incredible how something as simple as the water cycle taught in the fifth grade can have such an enormous effect. Solving real world problems is hard because with every problem comes intertwined at least 100 other issues. And to solve that one overarching problem, we must understand the relationships between these issues and not just the problem itself. How does that change anything? Take into account the problem of polluted rivers. Had the manufacturers thought it through, they would have planned and thought ahead of time where the palm oil would come from. Instead, they focused on the single overarching issue of reducing the pollution and never stopped to think what side effects their product might have. The traditional view is to break a problem into simpler subsets and then allocate resources to solve each of these issues. This approach, however, fails in a real world scenario where each problem in that subset of problems affects one another. Understanding individual parts isn't enough. We must understand the relationships between each of these simpler systems. We need to understand that not everything is as simple as cause and effect, and that we need to understand feedback loops that exist within each system. In the simplest system, for example, A affects B, which affects C, and which in turn affects A. Real world scenarios are obviously more complex. In a linear view of the system, A affects B, which affects C, and there is no feedback loop. Why is systems thinking so important? It's important because it allows us to better understand the potential effects of our interventions, which may be catastrophic, like in the case of the biodegradable soap. It enables us to design smart and unique solutions to problems. In the simplest sense, it gives us a more accurate view of reality and enables us to achieve the results we desire. It also allows us to better understand problems and solutions and enables us to understand how a particular chosen solution may play out in the long run and what its unintended consequences might be.